Welcome back, everyone. This is Walt Kasmir having critical conversations, always bringing you thought provoking and intelligent conversations about critical issues that impact millions of families every day. Today, I have a double honor. We are having our debut episode with my new co host, Joseph B. Washington.
Yes.
We are also having an outstanding local attorney right here in the Charlotte area. I'm so impressed with this uh, scholar and a gentleman because he came from humble beginnings and did whatever it took to ascend to the level of attorney. And he could have chosen many specialties, but he has chosen estate law, one of his primary specialties. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to attorney Shannon R. Wright.
Well, thank you. Walt, it's a pleasure being here with you all today. It's indeed an honor. And I look forward to sitting and having this conversation with you today concerning estate planning because it is an essential part of all of our lives. And I'd like to just talk about it and see what we can impart and learn more about estate planning. Yes, sir.
Attorney Wright, so let's start with just give us a definition, a layman's definition of what is estate law and why does the average person that doesn't have a seven-figure estate, why would they need to call you and seek your services?
Well, the situation is that most of us have the misunderstanding that estate planning is only for the wealthy, when actually it's for all of us, because it helps us to decide who will inherit, what it is that we have, and who will be the people to carry out those wishes. And it gives you the ability to make that decision and not leave that to the state to make the decision through intestate succession. So estate planning is something that we all need. Like I was saying, a lot of people have the misconception that it's only for the rich and well-to-do, but that's not true. Each one of us should take some steps to make some sort of estate plan.
Attorney Wright, you mentioned a terminology, intestate.
Yes, sir.
Now you're a well-educated, seasoned lawyer. What does that mean, and what's the significance of that?
So a person that dies without an estate plan, if you don't have an estate plan, you don't make the decision. You've left that decision up to the state in which you reside, and that state will make that decision through intestate laws. A person that dies with a will is said to die intestate, and the person that dies without a will is intestate. And if you're intestate, your property will go through the intestate succession laws of the particular state that you reside in. So if someone will make the decision, it will be made. It will either be you or it will be the government.
Now, Attorney Wright,
Yes.
I'm going to play the role of the average citizen and ask the question, well, why do I need to do all that? Isn't it just going to go to my wife?
Well, that may be the case, and it may not be the case. It just depends. If they're children, it depends on what type of property it is. There's so many things that come into play. If they're children, no, all of that doesn't go to the wife. There's a portion that will be left to the wife, and there's a portion that will be left to your children. So it is, and definitely, you are in a better position to make that decision for yourself while you're of able mind, able body to decide how that will happen. Because a lot of us have the misconception that if we're married, yeah, it automatically transfers to the spouse. And if you are concerned about taking that into your hands and making sure that that does transfer to your spouse, you have to take some steps. Some steps have to be taken, and some plan has to be put in place.
And I was just thinking one more question before I let Joseph Washington ask you some questions.
Yes, sir.
Can you shed some light on how this could be even more relevant in today's complex family dynamics? Because we have
Yes.
more fragmented families. We have families that are not the typical mom, dad, and two little kids. Um, can you shed some light on how that would impact it and how it impacts not only the financial legal aspects, but how can it dissolve or preempt some hostile family dynamics?
And that's a great question because in today's time, it's no longer the traditional family. Family comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors, if you want to say it that way. And today we have tons of blended families, and with blended families come a some unique problems and challenges I'll say unique challenges that you find in estate planning because the children of one spouse may not belong to the other spouse, and that does create some unique challenges as far as estate planning. There may be children that were born, before the marriage, before the spouse was married, and may have been a single parent. All of that creates um, challenges when it comes to estate planning, and it's good to know what what is in place for the structure of your family, because that will definitely affect how property is distributed.
Okay, that's very insightful.
Yes,
Joseph, you have some questions for our esteemed guest?
Yeah, I do. And Attorney Wright, again, man, thank you for joining us.
yes, sir.
And I can tell you already from listening to your articulation, brother, you absolutely know what you're doing. So I'm excited about this. It's a funny story. My wife is actually looking for us to do this planning, right? And I'm trying to ask her why. Why are you putting all this stuff together now? What's going on with you? We good? Right? Make sure she ain't doing nothing to me, brother. Uh, but I know in the case
Yes,
of the singer Prince, for instance, he
yes.
did not have his affairs in order in terms of his estate planning, and so there's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of craziness going on with him and his family. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you: do you execute the estate planning yourself, or do you? I mean, I know you draw it up, but do you execute it as well, or do you hand that off to somebody else? So I guess what I'm saying, when somebody is interested in rendering services from you, do you take them from A to Z through the whole process, or is there a part where you stop and then somebody else picks it up?
Well, it definitely depends. It's Reverend Washington. Um, what it, when a person comes into us, we normally handle from start to finish in most cases. It just depends if they're coming in for a simple estate plan or if they're looking to set up trust, which is a more complex situation, and
Hmm.
there are different types of legal actions that have to take place in something like that, as far as the deeding of property and titling things different way and adding it to the trust. So it's a much lengthier process. But for a simple estate plan, is something that a person will come in. We have questions, a series of questions that we go through to kind of learn about your family, what it is that you are trying to accomplish, and we work with you in order to put an estate plan into place that fits your unique situation. And at that point, once we get the estate plan the way that you want it, we go back and forth until we get it right. And once we get that in the way that you desire it to be, we will help you execute that. We'll bring in notaries, we'll bring in people to witness the documents and have it executed properly the way that North Carolina requires. Yes, sir.
And do you all also, in putting this plan together, do you all send a copy of that document to the person who's getting it done for them to review it as well? Or is that
Yes,
something that's done in your office?
we will send copies back and forth, drafts back and forth to make sure that it's of what you're wanting to have put into writing.
Awesome.
We want to make sure that that document is sound, that it actually encompasses everything that you desire, and for property to be transferred according to the way that you'd like. And there are several different instruments that we use during an estate doing to set up an estate package, and we can get into that as we go through the conversation today. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's awesome. Walt, I'm asking just one more question. I'm just as far as the taxes, with all that stuff, involved with estate planning, taxes and stuff. Do you all do taxes as well? Do you help them in terms of tax planning, things of that nature?
We don't actually handle the tax planning.
Okay.
We have financial planners that can help work with you. We handle like estate plan, and then we can set up an estate plan that will fit your desired outcome as far as it pertains to taxes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you for those insightful questions, Joseph. Now, I did have one follow-up question. Now, I know you mentioned a couple different terms. You mentioned trust. I would like you to explain that, and again, explain that in layman's terms, that so the average person can realize that that's not a instrument or a tool or a strategy that is beyond their situation. And then secondly, could you give us some type of price range that would be that a simple estate might expect from an attorney, so we can dispel the myth that, oh, that's too expensive, it's not worth it.
Right. Well, where should I start? Well, a trust is just an instrument that's set up according to your wishes, and it creates. It's an instrument that is allowed to hold property that's separate from and it separates it from an individual. The individual can actually state in the trust language how that person would like the trust to act, if they are going to be the beneficiary, and who will actually be the person to manage the trust, the trustee. You can decide all those things when you put the trust or you're drawing up a trust. But it's a great way to actually hold property. There's a lot of benefits to trust as far as protection for taxes, just protection as far as being able to protect assets from creditors and different things, as far as putting something in a place that will be there for your loved ones as time goes on, and to make sure that it's not squandered and different things. But trusts are wonderful instruments, and I think that's something that we could probably get into.
Yes, definitely.
Because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to trust. But I think, what was your other question?
The second question is, what would be the general price range that a family could expect, and in the time frame? How far in advance do we need to do this? We don't want to wait until the person's demise. We want to do this early, correct?
Right, because at the time of the person's demise, then they're going to be without a will, and that's when the property will transfer through intestate succession. But a simple will should probably only cost somewhere within the $400-500 range, even a little bit less than that if it's just a simple will. But for us, I know we put into place simple a package that starts around $450 and goes up from there, where we will put a simple will in place. We do a durable power of attorney, a health care power of attorney, and advance medical directive. Those are 4 documents that we can help create for you, that will put into place a simple estate plan that kind of covers everything that you find that comes into play in case you're incapacitated or during period of transition or end of life, So those instruments, and it's definitely something that can be done at a very reasonable price. And it's something to do it helps you avoid so many issues. Now, trust and different things like that, it depends on the size of your estate. When you start talking about estates that go into high 6 figures, 7 figures, then that can become a bit more expensive. But, it's just relative. You're looking at the size of the state, and that would be something that it would definitely be understandable that it would be more expensive to handle that.
Well, thank you for clearly giving us some further insight into that. Joseph, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I do, because this is so interesting, only because in real life, this has been brought up, with my wife and I talking. Attorney Wright, let me ask you, so in your office, right, I've dealt with lawyers before, and, fortunately for me, I've dealt with some, fantastic lawyers over the years. Now, people love the contact, we love direct contact with the main attorney, right? in your office, because again, you can't be in all places at all time. If someone was to use your services, are there people in your office that can speak with me as well in your absence if you're not there, that can
Yes,
still
sir.
speak just as much as you can?
So right now I am a small practice
Sure.
and we're growing. And God is blessing, but we have a paralegal that assists me, and generally she will do the intake, and a lot of times I'm there as well. We're
Mhm.
hands on. If you have any questions, a lot of you're going to be talking with me or my paralegal. If you talk with her, and we try to return calls like very soon, like within a 24-hour period. So we're hands on, and that's something that we pride ourselves on, and we'll continue to do as we grow and bring in others. But when you call us, you'll be speaking with us, and I am very hands on with my clients. Yes, sir.
Yeah, as I mentioned prior to you talking, I can already tell, so you definitely be hearing from the Washingtons, brother.
Okay.
But just one other question. So let's say somebody does an estate planning like right now. Let's say, I'm doing one right now, my wife and I, but over time, we're still living and our estate grows.
Right.
Do we then come back to you and we add some stuff to it? Is there an ongoing relationship that we have with you, Attorney Wright, that, as we prosper, as the Lord prospers us and things happen that we need to add to it? Are we able to maintain that relationship with you where you can just help us, throughout the months, the years, or whatever it would take to make sure that we stay up to date with our estate?
Yes, sir, and that's definitely something that. And thank you for bringing that up. We like to form that type of relationship, because as your estate grows, the document needs to change,
Right.
and different things will change over time. You may decide that you would like to change the executor, or you might like to change who are some of the heirs as your family changes. So definitely, that document should change over time always. And we're here to speak with you and make sure you get that, and put things in place according to what it is that you'd like to accomplish.
Yeah. And I just want to say for my listeners, I want y'all to know now, when you go back to him and you need to, do some follow up, that's follow up money too. That ain't, that ain't no free stuff now. You got that. You got to put something in the coffer. So thank you, Attorney Wright.
So I was listening. I was thinking that's outstanding in content. And now you mentioned a few different instruments. One of those, a living will. If you could just shed a little light on the living will and how that plays out in real life to decrease family drama, more or less.
Well, I think it's like an advanced medical directive. In what a lot of people call a living will. An advanced medical directive is a wonderful instrument, and I've seen, and I'll just share with you, in my family, you've had situations where you're at the hospital, a loved one is unfortunately becoming incapacitated, and you're making the decision if their life will be sustained by life support or not. And a lot of times, Walt, that type of thing can become very expensive, and uh, a lot of times the doctors know that there's nothing that can be done, but as loved ones, we hate to see that person go, and a lot of times it's hard to come to that decision. So what an advanced medical directive does, it puts that power in your hands, and you can make the decision and not leave your loved ones in in the place where they have to make that decision, causing a lot of it could cause some huge disagreements. I've seen it um, with my loved ones' family, and I know a lot of people have seen issues that take place at hospitals that aren't pretty. But if you, with this type of document, you decide what happens, and you take that power and you protect your loved ones. When the time comes, you know exactly what it is that you would like to have done. You've executed an instrument. The person that is your agent or executor or whatever, the person that you designate, they know where to find the document, and they can present that document to the medical staff and let people know exactly what your wishes were or are, and they can actually carry those out and avoid a lot of heartache.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Um, we're at a good transition point. I want to leave our audience informed, but wanting more. So hopefully you will come back and maybe delve into several of those topics that you mentioned in more detail and
Yes.
give the people more instructive wisdom.
Yeah, I
Well,
would like that. Yes, sir. Yes.
it's been my pleasure to have you. It's been an honor. Before we go, tell the people where your practice is, what your specialties are, and how they can get in contact with you.
Well, my practice is located at 1914 J.M. Peace Place, Suite 148. And you can reach me at 704-738-3837, or you can visit my website at srwrightlaw.com. And we practice estate planning, personal injury, and we handle some traffic issues and DUIs. But estate planning, like I was sharing with you, Walt, is my way of giving back. Is something that's close to my heart, and I think it's something that we need in our community. We need it. Because right now we know we're in a period of the biggest wealth transfer in the history of the world. So it's so important that we handle these things in the right way, in order to protect ourselves and our family, the things that we work so hard for, and have those things to help us create and establish, maintain our legacy.
Thank you so much, Attorney Wright.
Yes.
As I always mention to my audience, the description, the links to all that information that Attorney Wright just gave you will be in the description below on both YouTube and on the podcast. So please go down there, reach out to either of these distinguished gentlemen. We do this for you. We want you to be able to have a tribe, for lack of better terminology, to be able to actually make one phone call and reach out and get some significant help in life's most challenging times.
That's right.
So we're coming to an end. Joseph B. Washington, thank you for joining me. Your debut as the co-host. I look forward to many more.
Yes, sir.
People, there you have it. I only bring you the best and the brightest. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, ring the notification bell. Until we meet again, be wise and be blessed.